Hey everybody! We just watched a movie that is current, and we're here to have all the sick takes.
The hot takes. We just watched Raya, The Last of the Dragons.
And we're gonna take this movie down.
No, it was alright.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. It was not
perfectly fine for being $30 on Disney Plus.
It was.
Let me get that out of the way right away.
It was not $30 fine, that's for sure.
But we paid $30 for it.
We did, and
much to my shame. We were both just like, people are talking about it.
and we gotta watch it.
We want to watch it.
I want to form my own opinions.
So I was like, fine, we can't go to a movie theater. We're gonna sit down. We're gonna watch it, and I'm gonna make some popcorn, and I'm gonna microwave some butter and put some butter on top of the popcorn that's already buttered.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna eat snacks, and we're gonna drink some soda, and we're gonna treat it as if we did go to the movie theater, damn it.
Oh, is that why you put ice cubes in the Mountain Dew?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You have a real genuine theater experience in our own home.
Watering down my drink. Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, so this is going to be non-spoilers to begin with.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about our general thoughts on the movie, and then we'll move into a more spoilery section down the line.
Yeah, and our more spoilery section is probably going to be pretty spoilerific because we realize that not everybody's going to want to pay $30 for this film, and I don't support Disney doing this kind of thing.
So we might go into a little bit more detail on the actual plot.
Mm-hmm. So, general thoughts is I didn't think this movie was bad by any means. I wish that it was told in a different format.
I want this to be an animated series, not a movie.
Yeah.
I feel like they set up an interesting world with agreeable enough characters.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't get to spend enough time with any of that.
Yeah.
Because
the plot has to move along.
The plot has to keep moving. If this was a
TV show,
10 to 20 episode series, that would be perfect.
Yeah. Or what would have been really ballsy is if this was multiple movies.
Mm.
And animated films haven't quite hit that sweet spot of finding a way to make a cinematic universe. I mean, this wouldn't be a cinematic universe. They'd literally just be making sequels. Mm-hmm. But if this movie was set up to conclude in another movie,
where the conclusion of this movie doesn't happen.
Right.
It's just they get to a halfway point and then the movie ends.
Yeah.
And then you have to come back for the sequel.
Yeah. I think that would have been cool.
Because again, we get more time with the characters and locations and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it could have set up the theme that they're going for with this movie as well more.
Yeah. So I think that kind of says what it needs to, how Sean and I felt about this, because we liked it enough that we want to see more of it.
Mm-hmm.
However, the fact that we don't have more of it kind of works against the movie, because there's a lot of things that just feel really, really underdeveloped because it didn't have enough time.
Just rushed.
Yeah. I mean, this movie was almost 2 hours long,
Almost
right?
2 hours long, and I think it needed another hour if they wanted to keep it in one movie. To actually get everything fleshed out correctly.
Mm-hmm. Interesting to note, of course, this is the first Disney movie that has all been made remotely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure basically the whole, not necessarily pre-production, but production of this film was done via everybody working in their own home and just having to do Zoom calls to talk about story beats and, how is this shot coming along and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the post-production as well, which is interesting. And, I think as far as the team being able to communicate to each other to bring together a cohesive project, I don't think that was really a problem.
Yeah, I don't see... It was not... If there was negative effects to it, they were not enough to be a jarring, obvious amount of, wow, this just sucks compared to the other recent Disney films coming out. Mm-hmm. And I don't see that.
Yeah, because this feels pretty on par with
The last couple.
The last couple, which
Hasn't
again,
been super great.
Yeah, we haven't been super excited about the last few Disney films. I think our opinion has kind of soured over time. Because I think when we saw... Because the most recent Disney films that have come out have been like Frozen 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and...
There was another film in there.
Anything post-Moana, I want to say. Has just kind of been like...
There's only been like 2 or 3
down in quality.
of them. Only been 2 or 3 of them, and like just I'm
glad that this is an original concept. Which is neat.
Yeah.
Raya herself is an okay main character. Sisu, the dragon, is not as annoying as she appears to be in the trailers.
Yeah, I think she's fine. She did not annoy me. If there was going to be a character to annoy me, it was a different one in the trailers. And they were kind of annoying, but not even that bad because you don't spend any time with them.
Yeah. If you've seen the trailers for this movie, you'll know this film has a big cast. Like a really big cast. And a lot of the characters in that cast feel like annoying sidekick characters that are just in the movie because Disney feels like they always need to have sidekick characters in their movies. But these characters weren't annoying. They were fine. But they also weren't memorable.
Do anything.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm going to forget these characters were even in the film in a couple years. Which I don't think is good for the message of the movie.
No, because in my opinion, there is like 5 key characters and you could remove, like completely get rid of everybody else into like complete background character town and hardly anything would change.
Yep. And we'll have
Which is too bad because the theme of this movie really
doesn't
jive with that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
that being said, the theme of the movie is something I really like and I think was an interesting take on it. However, again, like a lot of the things in this movie, it feels really underdeveloped and I wish there was more time spent to like going into it.
Yes. Yeah.
So put a pin in that.
Hopefully we come back to it.
I have a list of things.
Wow.
So.
Okay, you're prepared.
I am prepared.
I'm not really prepared. I have like no notes.
Oh, cool.
I have 0 notes written down. Yeah. I thought I was going to write down notes, but then I looked and no, those were my notes from a
different thing.
A future episode of Animation Pilgrimage coming out next week, so you can look forward to that. So yeah. Spoilers?
Well, actually, we can talk a little bit more. We can talk a little bit more non-spoilers.
Okay.
We can talk about the art direction of the film and the cinematography, which I feel is a couple of things that we felt pretty strongly about when we finished the film.
Start with a good thing. Cinematography.
The cinematography was really good. I really liked a lot of the composition and shots. However, where it didn't work so well was the action.
Yes.
So
there are multiple action sequences in this movie, but you couldn't see what was going on half the time because it was a lot of rapid cuts.
Yeah, and it's like the action itself looks well choreographed and fun for animation. However, the way that it is shot is not exciting.
It is. Okay, it feels like it is being shot in a way to make it feel like the fight is chaotic and visceral and in your face, which is how a lot of American action movies are shot. But if not done correctly, it makes them come out as a confusing mess and you lose interest in the fight because you can't tell what is going on.
Well, I think it's a difference in what kind of action is taking place. In this movie, you have characters who are like trained for battle.
Mm-hmm.
And they're using more like martial arts and sword fighting type skills,
Mm-hmm.
which has a flow to them.
Yeah.
So the appeal of watching those kinds of fights is that you can see what's happening.
You can watch the flow happen, but because they're cutting so much, you lose that.
Mhm.
I would much prefer if this was shot, or the action sequences specifically were shot more like
Avatar: The Last Airbender.
or like a kung fu movie or
Right.
something, where you can still move the camera around every now and again, but you got to be able to follow the line of action and what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's
It's a clash of
Mhm.
like film styles that I don't think meshes very well.
another animated film that has done this exact kind of thing before and does it well
Mm-hmm.
is the Kung Fu Panda series.
Yeah, it's like you can see.
What they're doing all the time, because that's the focus of that point of the movie.
Right.
It's
There's
like
not a
want you
point
to follow
in.
the action.
There's not a point like in Kung Fu Panda. I think a great moment to bring up is the bridge sequence
Mm-hmm.
where the Tigress and the Furious Five are fighting.
Xiaolong?
Xiaolong, is that his name?
I feel like that's incorrect. I've forgotten his name. Tai Lung.
Tai Lung.
Tai Lung.
They're fighting Tai Lung on the bridge, and like the best part about the camera work there is that you can see everything that's going on.
There's a lot of long shots where they hold on characters just fighting. Even if it's very close to them,
Mm-hmm.
you still have a constant line of action going on and you know what's happening. And they even have quick shots of other characters quipping, or like Mantis standing over and holding the entire bridge by himself, which is
Right.
hilarious.
Yeah.
But like,
And
they-
the posing is just
Mhm.
extremely strong. Like, the silhouettes come across so well. And in this film, yeah, it feels like it's muddied on purpose to make it feel like the action's more visceral and stuff. And I don't think that
it was helpful to the
it ended up making the action scenes boring.
yes. It made me more disinterested in the action sequences, even though the 3 action sequences that really happen in this movie are between the same 2 characters every single time, and it's supposed to be like a mounting tension between the 2 of them,
Right.
and like an evolution of their relationship through fighting.
Yeah.
And you don't like
Because you don't get to see it. You don't get to see how, like,
they've evolved
They've
in their fighting
evolved.
style or anything.
exactly.
And if this was a show, we could have seen the characters actually training to be better and learning from how they had fought before. And if they did the same thing, they do it differently. And instead, it just comes off as who's going to end up falling on the ground this time with the other person pointing their weapon at them.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't follow the rest of the action up to that point.
Yeah. Another minor criticism I have is the art direction for this film. I really liked a lot of the atmosphere of this movie. The lighting was beautiful. Like, there was a lot of stuff that worked. I just really, really want to see Disney push their stylization.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing about the way that the characters are modeled in this film that makes them different from the characters that are modeled in, Frozen movies.
The only difference is cultural set pieces.
Exactly.
Like,
And
they're wearing different clothes, but if you were to dress Elsa in, like, the clothes of the people of Heart, and you had Anna, or the main character of this, dressed as though they were visiting Arendelle, they wouldn't look out of place, other than they have different ethnicities.
Right.
And that's not even a big deal.
No, well, no. I mean,
Like-
yeah, I just want to see Disney push their 3D department's art style.
Yeah.
Or at least allow for different art styles
Mhm.
to be used. Because,
It's like, this movie doesn't even look bad in this movie. I don't think it looks bad at all. I think it does a very
No.
good job. But, like, especially when you're just looking at a still frame,
Mhm.
you can just see that the characters don't fit the universe that they've been put into. And it's a thing that's been building up a lot over not just this film, but like a lot of Disney's other recent films, and also Pixar, and a lot of the other 3D animated films out there. but it's just glaringly obvious with Disney in particular. Their characters look like they're made out of a rubbery plastic, but everything around them is much more realistically detailed. And you can see that a lot in this movie.
It's a Good Dinosaur effect.
Yeah.
Where it's obviously not as extreme as the Good Dinosaur, but you have cartoony characters who are modeled like cartoons living in very realistic environments.
Mm-hmm. And this could be done. You could just dial back the render detail on the universe
a little bit,
and I do not want to see Uncanny Valley characters.
Mm-hmm. Or environments, really.
Or environments. And
yeah.
like the environments keep getting closer and closer and closer to that. But the characters, they found a spot where they stop and they won't go farther. And I appreciate that. But maybe for the benefit of the film, you need to pull them back again.
Pull the environments, pull the details in their clothing,
mm-hmm.
pull like every molecule of hair we see back just a little bit.
But I also want to see the characters pulled back too.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see them be allowed to have more exaggerated proportions again. Because we get a little bit of that in this movie, but it doesn't feel like it fits the universe that they're in.
Yeah, like the dragons in this film feel really out of place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just because, like, they're way more cartoonier than anything else. And on the same note, Tuk Tuk, I think, is her little, like, armadillo pet.
Yeah, her armadillo beetle thing.
Yeah. Like, he almost feels out of place, too, where he's, like, too cartoony for the universe that they live in.
Yeah. A lot of the animals feel much more cartoony than the humans, and the humans feel just barely able to exist in this fairly realistic environment that they've put them in.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to see all of that be more cohesive. Again, I liked what they're setting up here, and it could be just so much better if they just made it a little bit more cohesive.
Yeah, art direction.
I don't want to do this again, but I'm bringing back up Kung Fu Panda.
Uh-huh.
That movie did it perfectly.
Yeah.
Everyone has exaggerated proportions and designs that work with the character and the universe that they've set up.
Well, and I guess another comparison with Kung Fu Panda is when they take the moments where they go into a more stylized art form to, like, more so illustrate, like, the culture that this movie takes place in, and, like, that they're telling a story outside of our main story as, like, a flashback or something. Like, you get a lot more of, like, really cohesive art direction in those sequences, and I feel the same in this film, where we have a couple of sequences that are done
in a different
style.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, way more cohesive and way more charming.
And a lot more interesting to look at.
Yeah, than the actual film. Which is, again, technically impressive, but, like, when are these films not technically impressive?
Yeah.
I want something more than technically impressive. I want something cohesive.
Disney is always going to have incredibly technically impressive, pretty films. Now let's get some interest in that. Let's have some appeal in making our characters ugly.
Well, not making them ugly, just, like, you know...
What I mean by that is, I want what, like, the Legend of Zelda team does, where they purposely make their NPCs and such ugly to make them interesting.
Yeah, everybody's too beautiful in a Disney film that it makes it feel very unreal. I get you.
But again, none of that is the fault of this movie in particular. It's just the latest in a line of glaring obvious that they're falling into a lot of the same face syndrome. And
there is a particular note of criticism I've seen pointed at Disney recently that I kind of want to nip in the bud here, is I see a lot of people saying, like, this Raya / Frozen art style / Tangled art style and Moana is like, oh, well, Disney's always been doing this. Disney kills art direction. And it's like, no, that's not true. That is not true. You know, Disney, there is a Disney style, and a lot of, you know, the Disney style has evolved over decades and decades of this company being around. But in the 90s, like, the Disney artists were allowed to push the art direction for their films and make things that looked visually distinct for each movie they were working on.
So
Aladdin, Hercules,
yeah,
Lilo and Stitch, Atlantis the Lost Empire.
The only ones that you can even imply that they do like the same face stuff are the first two of the Golden Age, which was...
No, Renaissance.
The Renaissance, which was The Little Mermaid into Beauty and the Beast. And yes, those two definitely have some similarities. But
and they're going for that classic Disney style.
That classic Disney princess style that they do all the time. But after that, they immediately started changing up the art style. And then as the movies got arguably worse, the art style got dramatically more different and interesting. And so it makes you wonder, with things like Atlantis and Treasure Planet and Chicken Little and stuff, they started really experimenting with the art style, and then the company didn't do as well. So it makes you wonder if the company is trying to hold them to a cohesive style for profit.
My thought on that is that when Disney made the switch over to 3D, they really weren't prepared for it.
No.
Which, I mean, isn't even controversial. They just weren't prepared for that. They already had trained a whole bunch of traditionally animated, like traditional artists who had worked in the industry now for them for like 10, 20 years, and they were doing a bang up job. And then they tried to teach those animators how to do 3D. And hey, turns out, like it's a completely different field of art. And some of them took to it and some of them didn't. And so they brought in new people who were just as inexperienced as everybody else at the time was with 3D. So you got films like Chicken Little, where Chicken Little, Meet the Robinsons, what's one of their other 3D animated films? The Bolt, where, like you had somebody who was a concept artist, but not necessarily good at knowing what made for good concept art in 3D. And then, they trying to translate that, and it just didn't really translate all that well. Finally, then, when they made Tangled, they had Glenn Keane, who was one of their Disney Renaissance animators, come in, and he looked at the 3D footage, and he says, well, why... this character should be posed like this. And the animators would go, well, we can't pose the character like this because that would break the model.
Then break the model.
And then Glenn Keane said, well, then break the model because it doesn't look right. And like, as stupid as it sounds, that was revolutionary.
Oh, you mean if our camera is facing this direction, we can break the model to stretch the proportions so it only looks good from that direction and appealing. Just don't turn the camera.
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, like Glenn would literally like draw over the 3D frames and be like, this pose should look like this to be the most appealing. And
that gave us Tangled looking very good.
Very good. Like Tangled was the first time Disney really did well with 3D. And then because it did well, Disney was finally like, thank God, our animated films are doing well again. And so since then, they've just kept using that style. Now, they need to branch out. Like they just need to branch out from that. And they have a couple of times. Zootopia is a different art style. And I would also argue Wreck-It Ralph is a different art style. It's not insanely different, but it's different enough.
Yeah. I want them to make another human movie where they look like they're in a different art style. Because every time they go back to a human movie, especially if it's a Disney princess franchise that they want to happen,
they're like, it's gotta look like this. It's gotta look like The Little Mermaid. It's gotta look like Tangled. It's gotta look like Frozen. It's like, no, please stop.
And this movie, unfortunately, falls into that same problem.
Yeah.
And that's just a thing you need to know going in.
Yeah. Anyway, though, I think that's enough rambling. I think we can go ahead and talk about spoilers.
Yeah, so we're switching to spoilers now. If you have already seen the movie, stick around. If you've not, and you're not willing to pay the $30 or risk your life to go to a movie theater, and you just want to know the plot, stick around. But if you are willing to wait, we'll see you on June 4th
For when it's actually available on the platform that it's on.
For not an extra $30. God, 3 months. That is absurd, Disney.
God damn it.
Okay.
So, quick plot synopsis.
There's a land of
people who live on a river shaped like a dragon. And all together they are the land of Kumandra.
Kumandra, that's the term.
Yeah.
There was ancient evil clone blob monsters that turned people into stone statues. The dragons saved everybody, but none of the dragons came back from being stone after they saved everyone else, sealing away the evil ghost blobs that turned people to stone. All the stone people came back, though. The dragons
got together, used magic, but they returned to stone.
Yeah, they're gone.
They're gone, but they saved the people. People who came back then after the glob monsters were defeated are like, oh, this magic item that the dragons used to save us is the last dragon magic that we have access to. And so the humans all began fighting over it.
And they became divided into 5 different tribes based on where they live in relation to the Dragon River. So we got...
Which is pretty clever.
Yeah. Honestly,
I like it.
I'm glad they didn't come up with weird fantasy names for them. So we got Fang, Heart, Spine,
Talon,
and Tail.
Yeah.
Depending on where on the they live. So cool. I like that. It's good. Heart is the country that was lucky enough to end up with the shiny bauble, and their country prospers. And the guy that leads it is like, hey...
Raya's dad
is like, hey, I'm going to make like a big peace offering, invite everybody over, we'll just be peaceful, and we'll be Kumandra again. This immediately explodes because...
Raya makes friends with a girl from...
the Princess of Fang. And then she's like, haha, what if I showed you the shiny bauble that I'm supposed to protect? And then the girl is like, cool, thanks for showing me the shiny bauble. I'm going to steal it. You idiot. I'm going to steal it now because I lied and I tricked you, which is the plot of the movie.
And also you guys are hoarding the wealth.
Yeah, you're hoarding this special bauble that you don't think gives you special privilege in bountiful lands, but it kind of really does. Every other country kind of sucks.
Well, okay. This is something I want to go over really quick. Right away at the beginning of the movie, Dad, who is the leader of Heart, says like, oh, Princess Raya, please tell me what you know about all the other tribes. And this is our like exposition to tell us like what all the rest of them are about. And so Raya goes into her stereotype racial rant on each one.
And about how they're all evil and they'll slit your throats or stab your back or hit you with giant axes and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then Dad's like, good job. Now, tonight, we're going to be feeding all of these people.
We're going to eat food together.
And we're going to be Kumandra again. And so you'd think like the point of the movie is kind of to prove all of these like things that Raya has against these people wrong. It's not. It's just something brought up to be kind of like, haha, we all have biases against each other, but we need to forget about those to come together. Dad then says, like, well, Raya's like, well, but don't they hate us for having the heart or the dragon orb, this last magical piece? And Dad's like, they do, but that's because they don't know that it doesn't actually do anything for us. Which... I'm going to call Dad out here because I'm pretty sure it does.
Yeah, I think it do.
Like, I'm pretty sure, like, the dragon orb is making your land more prosperous than anybody else's because we see the dragon orb in other countries, and when it is in other countries, it seems to be making their land more prosperous. But also, there's not enough evidence to really say either way.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Is like, the only place that supposedly prospers is Fang, but, like, we don't know what it was like beforehand, so I think that's a little up in the air.
But when the two girls are talking, the two princesses are talking to each other, the Princess of Fang, I don't remember her name, unfortunately, so I'm gonna just call her the Princess of Fang. She's like, oh, well, this is the first time we've been able to eat rice in a really long time. And she, like, says, like, oh, you know, we've we don't have very good crops and stuff like that there.
Mm.
And then when we see the country later, like
They seem to be doing perfectly
They seem to be doing really well.
Yeah. Who knows? There's not enough evidence to point one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, Princess of Fangirl tries to steal the orb. The whole party gets alerted to this.
All the countries.
All the countries are in there and they're like, we want it. And Dad's like, we should share it. And then somebody shoots him in the knee with an arrow. We don't actually ever see who it was.
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter who shoots him. There was distrust. And then everybody rushes the orb. It shatters into 5 pieces. Everybody grabs a piece. And then the evil, scary blobs are back in the world, which are like apparently the manifestation of distrust and evil in human hearts or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
Something, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't really matter.
Darkness, heartless shadows.
Mm-hmm. They come out, and if the scary blob touches you, you turn into a statue in like a specific pose, holding like head down, hands out in front of you in like a cupped bowl.
Right.
As though it's like some form of offering or prayer.
Mm-hmm.
These are the rules they set up beforehand.
Yeah.
And then they break them throughout the course of the movie.
We'll get to that.
So
then cut 6 years.
They run. Everybody has to escape and run away. Dad gets turned into a statue. He throws his daughter in a river with one of the pieces of the orb. Because
these evil blob monsters can't go over water.
Yeah, apparently they're weak to water. Which
it's not explained why.
Yeah.
They can't do water. So Dad throws her into the river because he can't run because of his knee, and he gets turned to stone. Raya's like, no, Pa! And then 6 years later.
Yeah. One other plot point brought up in this part is the dragon Sisu was the last dragon, and she saved the world, and she supposedly disappeared in one of the, like, ends of the river, one of, like, the 7 different endings. So, cut to 6 years later, main character is got her orb, and she's traveling in tail to find the dragon. She finds the dragon, does the ceremony, brings her back, and now they're on a quest to get all the orb pieces and put them back together so Dragon can do the magic again and save everybody again.
Yeah. Sisu, when she gets brought back, is under the impression that it's like the next day after
saving everything.
Mm-hmm. And so she is like, well, why hasn't the dragons come back?
Because
why didn't
the
it work
dragons
for them?
didn't come back for some reason.
Right.
Who knows?
And other than that, she doesn't really do a whole lot.
No, she just kind of exists.
Yeah.
She sometimes helps out with a battle or grabs a thing or whatever, or gets in trouble and she has to be saved. But every time they get a new piece of the orb,
they acquire someone from the land.
They get somebody from the country that it's from. So like in Tale, they get a little kid who's running like a boat restaurant. And the rest of his family has been turned into statues, so that's why he's alone. But they get the orb piece there. And then we go to Talon, which is a series of... is a city built on the river, so they are immune to the evil blob monsters. Why doesn't everybody do this?
Yeah.
They don't explain why the other countries don't also do this.
Mm-hmm. But they're more of like a rough and tumble place.
Mm-hmm. And here we run into who is probably the most annoying character, and they're still not even terribly bad. It's the thief baby and her 3 monkey friends.
Mm-hmm. It's just kind of dumb.
It's just really dumb. This character should have been taken out of the movie and give us someone else. The whole plot of, like, the point of the movie is distrust between the countries, and Raya does not explain what the hell is going on to any of these other people.
Yeah.
Other than we're trying to get all the orb pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. If she explained, hey, I have a dragon with me that could save everybody.
Right. And I'm trying to put the orb back together to save everyone.
You think most of the countries would be like, yeah, okay, cool.
Right. There's the conflict here. It's like they break the orb,
mm-hmm.
and the bad thing comes back. And everybody just, like, grabs their own piece.
And runs away.
But it's like, guys, come on. Obviously, if you just put it back together again...
It would have been fine.
You'd get... Yeah, I get it. It's about trust. And they all don't trust each other. But, like, this is so dumb.
So then they go to Spine. And in Spine, they pick up a warrior guy. And his whole village has been turned into statues. And he's been alone for a really long time. So he joins them, like, immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And he has the least characterization.
Yeah. He's the last one they pick up. And
he does nothing.
He does nothing. He does nothing. I kind of like him, though, because they play him off as, like, he's this tough guy, but he's also, like, the one most interested in taking care of the baby because he's also a family man.
Because he had a daughter a child that got turned to stone.
Right. It's like, I like the juxtaposition.
I want to know this guy more.
I want to know more about him.
But he doesn't do anything because the movie doesn't have time to spend on him because we got to spend time on not girlfriend, who is the Princess Fang.
Why didn't they just make them girlfriends?
Because they're obviously queer baiting, but they can't say that they're girlfriends because this is being marketed to China as well, where homophobia is so rampant. So instead, we just get queer baiting the entire movie.
Yeah.
And, like, I knew this was going to happen.
I was hopeful. I was a little bit hopeful. I'm like, they might make this movie $30 on their subscription feed thing, and this might be a mess of a movie, because even when I saw the trailers, I was like, there's way too many characters and way too much lore to establish here for it not to be a mess.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, if they made these two girlfriends, like, that'd be something at least. But no.
And it's, like, definitely set up that it might turn out to be that in the future, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is no payoff for this other than these two girls kind of connected at a party once, and the one stabbed the other in the back immediately, and then they fight multiple times.
And now they just fight with each other all the time.
Yeah, and so...
Okay, so anyway.
We get to Fang.
From
Spine.
We take a detour back into Heart because Sisu at this point is like, Raya, you need to just learn to trust people. When we get to Fang, just tell the princess, like, bring her a gift and tell her that, like, this is what we need to do to save everyone, and she'll understand.
Yeah, because...
And Raya's like, no, that's not gonna work.
Sisu this whole time is trying to just be open and trusting of everybody and, like, just tell people what's going on and they'll go with it. And Raya doesn't trust anybody, which is the point, and like, it doesn't work.
Right. So then Sisu takes her off to Heart, where the dragon orb was kept, and she's like, this is where it happened, and this is where my siblings made the magic, and then they gave it to me
to implement it.
Yeah, to do the thing. Why they do it like this, I don't know.
There needed to be more
backstory on Sisu.
Yeah, Sisu is the last dragon, and they have very little to do other than come in and use magic power that she gets whenever she touches another piece of the orb.
There's a lot of weird world building and, like, lore rules here that they break for
more and more inconsistent as we get farther into the movie.
Yeah.
Revolving around the dragon and what powers they do or do not have, and the statues. Oh, so the dragon statues do not take the praying pose. They just take whatever pose they were in.
Sometimes. Because
we see a field of random dragons that tried to fight the darkness globs from years ago, and they're all in random spiraling poses, but the four siblings of Sisu were in the poses.
Yeah.
Why?
It's just little world building things like that it's just like, if you just kept this consistent, it would feel better. Anyway, so Raya is moved by this, and she's like, okay, well,
we'll try
your way when we get to Fang.
So they get to Fang. Fang is only prospering because they have a moat. They live on a tiny island where they are running out of space because they got a lot of people, and they can't go on the mainland because of evil dark globs. So the princess is actually like, oh my god, the dragon exists by this point.
Yeah, because she's seen Sisu now.
And she's a dragon nerd as well. They specifically
Dragon
called
nerd.
each other dragon nerds.
I hate
That's
that.
like, that does not fit this universe you set up by calling each other dragon nerds. This is a fantasy world. You don't run around calling people nerds.
Yeah, it's just not the term I would have used.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole point too with the Fang Princess and Raya is that like their family situations kind of like parallel each other, where they both are children of single parents, but the mom of the Fang Princess is a lot more controlling
and does not
trust anyone. Yeah,
and is pushing that on her daughter, whereas Ba, which I think is dad in some language, I'm not going to make an attempt. I don't want to get it wrong.
Don't want to guess wrong.
Yeah. I want to say it's Chinese, but I could be wrong.
Well, it's supposed to be a film that's set in Southeast Asia.
Okay. And there's multiple different cultures obviously going on.
Exactly.
So I don't know which culture the heart is specifically pulling off of there.
Mm-hmm.
So her dad was trusting, and that didn't work out.
It bit him in the ass.
Mm-hmm. So we get to the end, and there's a face-off of, give us the orb and we'll save the world, but please come alone. So she comes alone and gives him the orb, but then she pulls out a crossbow and you're coming with me because my mom said I had to. And it feels so dumb.
It's so contrived because it's just okay, go with her.
As long as the dragon is there with all the orb pieces, it's fine. And the dragon is even yeah, okay, fine. I'll take all the pieces and the orb, and I'll come with you.
Yeah, because Sisu's just I trust you to do the right thing, and we'll do this together.
And then there's dumb contrived where it looks like she's gonna pull the crossbow to kill the dragon, and then Raya's don't do it, and attacks her, and then the crossbow does go off, and Sisu does die, and then the river drains because she was the ocean dragon and the last dragon or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so then there's the climactic scene of the final country of Thorn getting ravaged by the evil bad guys.
Fang.
You
said Thorn.
Whatever. Fang is being ravaged and everyone's being turned to stone, but the good guys are we gotta save them.
We still have these dragon pieces. We need to come together. We need to trust each other. And it's all
no shit.
No shit. But it's all the same people that we've been together with for this whole time. So of course you guys trust each other. This isn't really a trust test anymore.
You guys already trust each other. You're already on board. Except Raya is being a bitch and just angry and not following the plan and runs off and has to have one more dramatic escalating fight with her not girlfriend. Who's really sad because everything blew up in her face and her mom's a stone statue now. And so they have this really cool color or awesome color palette and well shot when it's far away action sequence that had no reason to exist with the plot as they had written it up to this point.
Right.
Anyways, they all fall in a hole and they're all surrounded on every side and they have to come together. And Raya's everybody give me your orb pieces and we can save the day. Even if there's no dragon, we can do it. And they're and everyone's no, we don't trust the girl that just killed the dragon.
Right.
So Raya's all right, well then I'll trust you. And so she gives the pieces to the Thorn Princess. And then she gets...
Fang.
The Fang Princess. The Fang Princess. And then... Shut up, car. And then she gets turned into a statue. And then the little boy's all right, I'll trust you too. If
Raya trusts you, then I trust you.
And so he gives it over. And then he goes and hugs Raya and turns into a statue, but not in the pose.
This is going to be the part that really sticks with you.
Yes, the posing is
so specific.
It's so specific that you set it up that everyone takes this pose no matter what they were doing. If they're running, they turn into this pose, whatever. But now this boy is hugging her in stone, and then the baby and the guy, they hand over the pieces too, but he's got his arm around Raya, and the baby's being held, and they're not taking the pose, and same with the stupid monkeys that mean nothing. And it's why? I know you wanted to have, like, this image of them all, like,
together
and holding each other, and, like, the Fang princess, I got it this time, puts the orb together. Like, well, she almost runs away.
Yeah, she almost takes them all and runs away with it.
But then she's like, no, I'll do the right thing. So she puts the orb all together, but it doesn't work. And so she just leaves it and goes and stands with the other and also turns to a statue. And it's like, oh, sad pose of all the main characters as a stone statue together. And then the orb's like, cool, everybody's cool or whatever, and then it chaboom, and it works.
It fixes everything. And the dragons come back.
Yeah, and then this time, when the humans did it, all the dragons come back, and then the dragons hold like a special dance party to bring Sisu back from the dead. And now all of the dragons have all of their powers, even though it was set up earlier that each dragon had their own specific power. I don't understand this part. The lore is falling to pieces, but the movie does not care. Mm-hmm. And then everybody
reunites with their families.
And then teleports back to Heart, and there's a big party, and Raya meets Dad again, except she's all grown up, and
they become Kumandra again.
And the movie ends.
Yeah.
So, like, there's good parts to this, but there are other parts that I'm just like, come on, you're so close.
I'm so frustrated with it because, again, I want it to be longer. I want it to be bigger than this. I really like this message of them all needing to get over their distrust of each other and learn to come together. And the intro of the movie kind of It sets everything up really, really well. I really like the first act, except for the inciting incident, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. But the first act of the movie, I think, is pretty strong in setting up, like, what needs to happen. You have this thing where, you know, like, everybody was turned to stone and this great tragedy, and then the last of these dragons came together and, you know, Sisu's orb, fixed everything. But it didn't bring the dragons back, and instead, then when humanity found the orb, they began fighting over it. And the movie even specifically points out, like, instead of humanity coming together to thank the dragons or mourn for the loss of the dragons, they began fighting over the last of the dragon magic. Mm-hmm. And so what I thought this would lead into at the end is that the humans finally coming together to stop the darkness, that would bring the dragons back, and then we would see the dragons actually exhibit the
full force and correct magic to bring everybody back.
Exactly, like the dragons would do the correct thing and would mourn the humans who sacrificed themselves to bring them back. And then it would actually be like a circle of like giving and trusting and whatever. Mm-hmm. Good positive vibes. Like, but no, it's just like, for some reason, the stupid magic didn't work at the beginning. So that we have this conflict. And then for some reason at the end, the magic just worked.
Yeah.
Even though it was busted.
Yeah, so it was incomplete and they don't explain why. And it just... You were close, guys. Mm-hmm. And, like, I like the concept here, which is why I'm frustrated.
Yeah. And I also want to talk about more stuff in the first act, is that you also have, like, just kind of these contradictory things going on where Raya and her dad are protectors of the dragon orb, and you show them... you show them training to protect the orb. Mm-hmm. But then Raya's dad contradicts that, and he's like, I don't want you to be a warrior and worrying about fighting these other people all the time. I want us to be working on becoming Kumandra again and trusting the other people. Which is like, okay, well then why did you train her to be a protector of the dragon orb? Mm-hmm. Like, and what I like that, you know, you show her as a princess and with her father, like, seeing him putting himself out there and being like, you know, we're welcoming the other tribes to come in and we're going to try and work this out and we're going to try to come together again. And you see her watching her father and being like, okay, I want to be a good example. So she reaches out to the Fang Princess and they become friends. And, like, that's interesting. But then where I have a problem with it, again, is the inciting incident.
The main character, out of nowhere, takes the Fang Princess into the secret sanctum.
Before they get to this, the Fang Princess gives Raya a Sisu
charm
thing. Amulet thingy, just as like a show of friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And so in response, Raya is like, hey, come follow me, and takes her to the dragon orb. And I'm just like, this is so dumb. Like, even if you trust this girl, like, this is just a really stupid thing to do. And you're a protector of the dragon orb. Like, what part of this made you think this was okay? This is not about trusting someone. This is just about not being an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, I think what would have worked way better as an inciting incident here is if, to kind of build off of the fact that Raya is watching her father put himself out there and learning from his example, is if he was the one to F up and he was the one to, like, bring the dragon orb out and being like, hey, I know that this dragon orb is, like, helping my country more than others, but as a show of trust, as a show of respect,
I want to share it.
I want to share it. I want to, like, have us, like, put up a system where we, like, pass this off every few years as, like, a show of trust between our countries.
And then
whatever.
you could have had random arrow come out of nowhere, and then everyone jumps at it and tries to take it.
Right, because then you still have the
fact that nobody trusts each other.
You still have the same thing where nobody trusts each other. It's still something that's kind of done foolishly, but with good intent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because what's Raya gonna do by showing the Fang Princess the dragon heart? It's nothing but just, like, shoving it in her face. Like, look what we have that you don't.
And it doesn't make the main character look like an idiot.
Yeah, but it still gives her that trauma of, like, you know, I don't trust people because my pa trusted people, and look where that got him.
Mm-hmm. The only way that this version sets it up more is that she has a more direct rivalry with the Fang Princess.
Mm-hmm. Which is obviously what they were going for.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's still too underdeveloped to really pack that punch. Yeah. And they do... Like, you could still keep that parallel then at the end where, you know, Dad is saying, like, stop, you know, we need to stop fighting about this and trust each other, and then someone shoots him. And then we still get that parallel then at the end where Sisu is like, you know, no, Fang Princess, I'm gonna trust you, and then she gets shot. Like, there's this parallel here on both ends of the movie. But I'm not, like...
It doesn't line up correctly.
I just... there's... The story here is really what's lacking, and that's what makes me sad, because I think there is a good story here. It just wasn't ready yet.
Just needs a couple more...
hours?
Yeah.
Like, it either needed to be scaled down a lot more to make it a more cohesive, impactful movie, or it needed to be expanded upon to the point where it couldn't have been one film.
Yes. Like, there are no ifs, ands, or buts here.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed the concept set up here. I'm disappointed by how unfulfilled I feel after watching it.
Mm-hmm. It's like, it's a good movie. I do have a lot of, like, I wish it was more kind of feelings about it.
That's mostly it.
I don't recommend buying it for $30. You know, catch it in June when it comes out, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's okay to wait on this one.
Yeah. If you have seen it, let us know what your thoughts were below, because I am interested to see if people felt the same kind of, like, unfulfilledness.
Mm-hmm.
I know our patrons have been talking about it quite a bit.
Oh
in
yeah,
the
I
Discord.
haven't checked what they've been talking about it though
Because we
hadn't
just saw it.
Yeah, we just saw the
so
movie, so we
wanna
haven't checked it out yet.
Yeah, so
So-
I'll be checking those out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let us know what you think,
And we'll see you the next time we watch a current movie.
Yeah.
Bye.